Well, Mike Gundy is out at Oklahoma State, officially fired today. Where does OSU go next? Is it going to be Zach Robinson? Is it going to be Colin Klein, much to the chagrin of K-State fans? Both of those names have popped up already. And what's going to happen to Chad Weiberg, the AD? Certainly looks like better outcome for him than Mike Gundy. Welcome in tonight. Impromptu live show, emergency live show, if you will, because the Mike Gundy news actually broke. The Mike Gundy firing actually happened. And to be quite honest, even though I think we all had a pretty good idea this was coming because of the Pete Thamel report that said it would be in the next few weeks, just from things I had been hearing, it sounded like things were in motion. But the fact that it winds up coming out and is finished and done in the middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday, in September, nonetheless, for a guy that has been an institution at Oklahoma State for a couple of decades and basically is Oklahoma State football, has dedicated 35 years of his life, more than half of his life, to Oklahoma State football. I am a bit surprised, yes, that it went down the way that it did. I think that says a lot about the current state of college athletics. I think it says some positive things, honestly, about where Oklahoma State's head is at in meeting this moment. K-State fans will recognize that phrase that I like to shout quite a bit these days. Meet the moment with the ever-present existential threat in college athletics. Oklahoma State seems to understand that. But, man, there's a lot of fallout from this before we even get to what comes next. So I hope you all are able to join me here. Appreciate you joining me on an abnormal night for a stream. I don't know if I've ever done a Tuesday night stream. It certainly has been a while, but please like the video, subscribe to the channel. All that stuff really helps. You can draw me a line on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4 if you're not able to catch the show live, and I will kick off the next stream with your question or comment. And I did. I was already having people today weighing in on Venmo about the Mike Gundy firing before I had a chance to even do the live show. Would have done it right when it happened, people, but I've got a day job. Bob says, I'm stunned, and thank you, Bob, for your support. Bob says, I'm stunned to hear of Mike Gundy's firing. He was truly a class act every day, even if necessary, which I question. Will the portal make this a successful operation that kills the patient? Yeah, I've heard people talk about the portal, which opens up for 30 days for players after their coach is fired. Like, I do understand why people would bring that up. I'm going to quote Chad Weiberg here. Chad Weiberg, Oklahoma State's AD. He said, Mike Gundy, this was about, I'm worried about next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I'm not worried about this week's game or the next 2 weeks. So I think that is kind of the answer to that question. Yes, you may deal with some headaches because of the portal situation now. It's obviously going to make the rest of the year very disjointed. But I don't think you worry about that. I think you're worried about making sure you're in the best position possible to get a great head coach starting next season, because it's not totally easy to turn over a roster, right? Like ask West Virginia, ask UCF. I guess it looks pretty good right now with them at 3-0, but it's not easy to turn over an entire roster if that is what is going to happen. But you also can do it pretty effectively these days, and the turnaround job does not need to take quite as long as it necessarily used to. So having said all of that, you want to get a jump start. You want to make sure you're in the best position to get the best head coach in there and get moving. And I guess like that's where I'll start with this, because I know there's a lot of shock about seeing this come out today, seeing this come out when it did. And it feels very jarring. I could see Ron saying sad for the reason of having the live chat tonight. I think a lot of people are, and maybe I should say that first about Mike Gundy. Look, he's been a great character for the Big 12. He's been a great coach in college football. He's a college football Hall of Famer. The dude is an absolute legend. Absolutely. Like, I have enjoyed he's been a very quotable coach. He's been a very brutally honest coach, which as a media member, I feel like we're always wishing for that from coaches. And then sometimes we attack them for being honest when they are. I mean, I appreciate the honesty, and I appreciate Mike Gundy being a very fun guy to listen to in press conferences, in addition to everything he's just done for the game and for the conference and all of that. So this is one of those moments where it feels like a guy's not going to get his proper flowers because of the current situation, how people feel. and the dynamics of the sport that are pressing everybody to move on very, very quickly. Okay. So I acknowledge all that, totally understand it. I want to make sure that Mike Gundy gets some real love here. All right. He definitely deserves it. So why would Oklahoma State do him like this? Why, instead of putting up a statue, giving him the rest of the year to just coast and soak up, a farewell tour kind of vibe, something like that? Why go ahead and do it like this? I think if we were talking about 10 years ago in college football, it makes more sense to either wait to do any of this or give him an opportunity to actually announce a retirement, do a farewell tour, something a little bit different, show some more deference basically to the guy for everything that he's accomplished. I don't think it makes quite as much sense now in the current state of college athletics. And I know on the topic of whether or not he was given the opportunity to do that, there was some reporting on either side of it. Jim Traber, who hosts a show on the Sports Animal in Oklahoma City, I was seeing people on Twitter. I didn't listen to Jim. People on Twitter were saying that he had reported that Mike Gundy was given the opportunity to announce his retirement and do that whole thing. He said no, and so then he was fired. But Chad Weiberg said today, and he did a press conference today, Chad Weiberg said Mike Gundy was not given an option to finish the season, and this was a long-term decision. And then that's where that quote came from. Quote, "I'm not worried about this week's game or the next 2 weeks. I'm worried about next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now." So it sounds like that option may not have even been afforded to Mike Gundy. Here's the thing, man. As a fan of a school that is going through a rough year that could turn into what happened to Oklahoma State last year in K-State, I'm very close to that situation. My frustration has been just a sense of, feels like there's not enough sense of urgency, from people at the university, the athletic department, football program, all involved to this is not the time to be having a bad season. 2030 is looming. That's when people think the next big iteration will happen. Cody Campbell, we haven't talked about this a lot recently, but he's doing his damnedest to fight for some change in college football that hopefully could be better for everybody. Hopefully nobody from this current Big 12 is going to get cut whenever the next iteration happens, but you have to treat it like a threat. I mean, Oklahoma State, or rather Washington State and Oregon State, have been just decimated in just over a year. They're losing games by 50 to North Texas. You can't let your school become that. And so with that, you got to act with ultimate urgency here. And I think that's what Oklahoma State is feeling. Plus, Chad Weiberg, the guy who reportedly, okay, let me make sure I give proper attribution here, according to Polk's report. So this is Robert Allen. All right, Robert Allen's very plugged in at Oklahoma State. Robert Allen says that Chad Weiberg is going to get a new 4-year contract. He's the athletic director there who had been working not under contract. He did not have a contract before that. So there was a lot of speculation that he was going to be gone too. If Robert Allen's reporting it, that's something I'm definitely going to trust. He is very, very tight in there in Stillwater. So Chad Weiberg does get the opportunity to stick around, but, he was probably feeling like, I got to do something because I don't have a contract right now. I want to stay here. That is Chad Weiberg's alma mater, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at Oklahoma State, right? That's not someplace he wants to leave. He doesn't want to lose his job. He's currently making $750K, which low for an athletic director, but that's a pretty damn good job. You're going to feel the pressure there, and you're going to feel the pressure to move. And I think it's clear everybody else at Oklahoma State, they understand we can't be doing – this is going to be a second lost season. We absolutely cannot mess around with trying to wait any longer. We need to be first in line to get a coach, first in line to back channel with whoever it's going to be. Make sure we have all our ducks in a row and prepare for that. They could see where this was going. Guys, I know the kind of old mantra and sort of general, if you're a more laid back, not online fan, you don't want to freak out about every little thing. I admire you, first of all. But second of all, generally, I think you'd be like, well, can we really give up on this season this fast? I mean, you lost the game by 66 to Oregon, and then you lost to Tulsa at home for the first time since the 50s. Yeah, it's going to be a lost season. You're going to go through another lost season. So make sure everybody knows, no stress, no sweat. We are moving forward, and you free yourself up to start making moves to push your program forward. You don't have to be bound by anything. You don't have to worry about any kind of constraints. You can just go, okay? You can just go and start worrying about that. Yes, I get it. Portal recruiting, it makes it all messy. but there's just simply no time to mess around. If you know that you need to make the move, you got to make the move and go. And I think that's just a harsh reality of what the sport has turned into. And I'm sure Mike Gundy doesn't like it. I'm sure he feels jilted. Frankly, he should. Like, I think this is just like both parties feel the way they feel and act the way they act right now out of necessity based on the realities of the sport. I saw someone mention earlier, like Mike Gundy's made like $90 million in his career. He's going to get a $15 million buyout here. Like, no one is Mike Gundy's going to be just fine. Okay, but obviously, just from a pride and humanity standpoint, yes, this sucks, and he is in a lot of ways getting screwed. And I think it's, the story's been told quite a bit about Mike Gundy being slower to adapt to NIL. It seems clear he's not a guy who loves what the sport has turned into. He made a good analogy the other day. I'm trying to remember what it was at a press conference. Where he was basically like, it may not be what I wanted or what I like, but it's the reality, and I just got to get on board and deal with it. He's not going to like this part of it too, but it is the business now. It is the business now. You got to be more swift with your moves, especially when you are a school that's in the position of you might get cut. You might get cut from the big time. You definitely cannot be waiting around if that is the ultimate reality. So it's cold, it's hard, but it is the truth. Mike Gundy should go off in his corner. He should curse Oklahoma State and everything that's going on right now. I'm sure there are going to be some hard feelings for a while. This really sucks, for Oklahoma. I feel for Oklahoma State from just, if you are going to make a statue of the guy, if you are going to name part of the stadium after him, do something, right, to honor him. Like, how long do you have to wait to do that before he would want to come back? I'm just speculating here. I have absolutely no inside information on that at all, right? But there are probably going to be some sour grapes there for a while. And I would imagine that's just not going to be a great marriage for a little while. And we'll see what happens. These situations are very tricky, man. Very tricky. Again, I saw it go down at K-State. Definitely think there were some hard feelings there for a little while. And that was not something that was done in September after rough losses, right? Bill Snyder got to carry out the 2018 season, but that was still, we were 3 years prior to Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12. It was a different world. It was a different environment, even though that doesn't seem like all that long ago. It totally was. In college football, you got dog years, you got college football years right now, man. Like, things move like a decade at a time instead of a year at a time. So anyway, that, I think, in terms of the logistics of how it went down, that's kind of my thought on it. Frankly, as much as I say this sucks for Mike Gundy and he is getting screwed in this situation, I applaud Oklahoma State for moving the way that they did. That's not easy. I know I'm seeing some of you guys in the chat. Mike Gundy had not been getting along with the Board of Regents for a while. Yeah, there had clearly been a lot of tension around Oklahoma State for a while, and Gundy finally started losing at a clip where you're not going to overcome that tension, right? You win, Ollie Gordon goes off, you go to the Big 12 championship game. Yeah, you're going to keep your gig, but when it slides and you're not somebody that's being friendly and cozying up to donors and Board of Regents and everybody involved, then it's going to go pretty quick, especially when the business is the way that it is right now. So I commend Oklahoma State, man. You got to do it like this. You got to do it. They seem organized, ready to go. I'm sure Oklahoma State fans could debate, Chad Weiberg. I'm curious what Oklahoma State fans think. Let me know in the chat what you think of the Chad Weiberg report. If he is going to be the guy to make the next hire and get an extension as the athletic director at Oklahoma State. Like, how are you guys feeling about that? I could understand some level of mixed feeling about that, but I think all in all, Oklahoma State fans have to be feeling relief. I would think that has to be the prevailing emotion here, because you're worried about this being a tense situation. You're worried about what's going to happen with this. Eventually, is Gundy going to make this an ugly situation? Like, will we get a new coach next year? You can exhale. You're going to get a new coach next year, and you're going to be first in line to take your pick of the litter of who you want. So, yeah, man, crazy, still crazy, a little surreal to see it happen, but now you get to move on. And whether it's going to be Zach Robinson or not, we'll find out. And that's where I'm going to go next here in just a moment, is who exactly Oklahoma State will hire at this point. David, have you heard rumors about Gary Patterson to Oklahoma State? I have not, outside of what I presumed to be just some jokes on Twitter, just a few ha-has out there. I mean, I understand why people would say that and or think that. David, I know you're a TCU guy too. Like Gary Patterson's a very accomplished coach, but aren't you, in essence, you're just rehiring Mike Gundy if you hire Gary Patterson? He was kind of the same dude, right? He was a legendary coach that was at the same place forever, won a lot. And then the sport, I don't even know if it's necessarily that the sport totally passed him by, but not a guy who seemed crazy. He's an old school guy, right? Like Gary Patterson's kind of an old school cranky dude like Mike Gundy. He doesn't like where the sport's at right now. Does he really want to be taking that on? Is he going to be the guy to really modernize the way that you're doing things and make sure you're totally up to speed with the way the game is right now? That's not that guy. So I would be pretty stunned if that were actually the case. And that says nothing about like Gary Patterson's chops as an actual football coach. But the problem is, as a head coach in college football in 2025, that's a small part of the job. That's not the majority of the job anyway. The majority of the job is like managing donors and how much money do you have? And now you're basically working with a salary cap. And can you keep players motivated when they have all this money and you're worried about them transferring? And can you coach them hard enough, but not too hard so they leave? And all these different things that you have to deal with, changing rules and regulations, keeping up with that. Like the actual ball coach part of it is so much smaller a part of the job than even the last time we saw Gary Patterson actually coaching. So I'd be pretty stunned. You need to go a different route. You need to modernize. You need to kind of get with the times here. This is definitely, and typically hires swing from opposite ends of the spectrum, right? You have a defensive guy, then you want an offensive guy. Or in this case, you kind of have a old school guy who in some ways is like a relic of the past of college football. You need to get somebody who is going to be new and up to date on what is going on right now and start blazing a path forward like that. Okay. So that would be my thought on it. If you want an early hot board, look, obviously, if you guys listen to Carson Cunningham, who came on with me recently and did just look up the downfall of Oklahoma State football video on here if you want to hear it. But he talked a lot at that point already about Zach Robinson and he's going to be the guy, was basically his message that they would target first. Now, I said that to some friends in a group chat today, and people were like, now this is coming to me I don't watch a lot of NFL football purely because I don't have the bandwidth for it. I spend my Sundays catching up on the college football games that I missed on Saturday. So I'm as informed as I can be to do this. I watch the Chiefs and that's about it. So people are telling me, well, the Falcons they suck this year. They got shut out 30-0 by the Panthers. Obviously, Zach Robinson's the OC. They're 1-2 this year. Like, is that even going to work out? Like, would Oklahoma State want Zach Robinson? Will that marriage be something that's like tenable and that they want to go down that path by the end of the year? There's also, of course, like, would he take the job? Now, Carson Cunningham seemed to think pretty good chance that he would take the job. And Carson has been like one step ahead. If you've been paying attention to him, that guy's been one step ahead of the Mike Gundy stuff at every turn going back the last couple of years. So I definitely trust him on that as well. He had expressed that some of Zach Robinson's concern was he didn't want to be perceived as pushing out Mike Gundy. And this is one of those things this year this is one of those things with the firing coming right now, with the timing coming right now, that you can get out in front of that. Now, Zach Robinson, if he truly is your guy and you want to identify him and go get him, he doesn't really have to worry about looking like he's pushing Mike Gundy out right now. Like Chad Weiberg will take all the bullets for that because he just went out and did it right now, made the move swiftly and got it taken care of. And you would be hiring the guy like way after that. Okay. So that maybe is a part of the calculus here. I see Kevin saying that it was Atlanta top 5 or 6 offense in the league last year. Okay. That's definitely good info for me. I have not had a chance to delve too deeply into that. I just knew Zach Robinson is the hot name. I definitely remember him as a quarterback, as a K-State fan. I remember Zach Robinson once upon a time being committed to K-State and thinking, man, that guy looks like a perfect Bill Snyder quarterback, very mobile. Then he ended up going to Oklahoma State. K-State floundered for a couple of years. Okay, so Zach, who knows, man? Who knows what could have been with you and Bill Snyder in purple? Anyway, look, I think Zach Robinson seems to make a lot of sense on paper from that standpoint if he really wants the job and if Oklahoma State thinks that he is good enough pending what happens the rest of the year. I think the other thing is Zach Robinson's name coming up right now, like right this second, like they did just have what could be the worst game of the year for the Falcons if they're getting shut out by the Panthers, right? So, things may look a lot better by the end of the year. A situation to monitor, certainly. Other names, there are a lot on this list. This hot board from On3, Pete Nakos did that. G.J. Kinney from Texas State. I've seen him a whole lot. That's been a really good program under his watch. He went 8-5. He's led Texas State to a couple of bowl wins his first 2 seasons. Supposedly was on the short list at Mississippi State when they hired Jeff Lebby. So he's been a name that's been in contention. Tyson Helton is the other head coach I'm seeing here from Western Kentucky. They're talking about him being an incubator of bright minds. Zach Kitley, Bailey Zappi, Ben Arbuckle, a lot of guys who have come through. Ben Arbuckle now calling plays at Oklahoma, and Ben Arbuckle is another one of the names that's on this list. So, but if you're looking at head coaches, here's what I'm seeing. G.J. Kinney, Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky, Jeff Traylor at UTSA, which, that seems to me like it would make some sense. I feel like the thought with him has always been he would want a job in the state of Texas, but Stillwater's not too far from there. Okay. Stillwater's not too far from there. He's 47-22 in 6 years at UTSA. He's gone to 5 straight bowl games. He has a couple of 10-win seasons. Jeff Traylor, I think, is going to be a P4 head coach eventually at some point. That would seem to make some sense. I wouldn't hate that. Now, I saw someone in the chat already bringing up Alex Golsh at USF. Here's the problem there. I think Golsh is going to be he's going to be an SEC head coach probably, or just a Power 2 head coach. I think he will get a bigger job. That's nothing personal to Oklahoma State. I just think he's a guy that has probably ascended to like being prime candidate at one of the biggest jobs that will open this cycle, whatever that's going to wind up being. I don't know. Florida, I guess, would be an interesting one. That certainly seems like it's going to open up. And Golsh is part of the reason that it is going to open up. So I'd be curious how involved he would be there. But I think it's like that type of job that Golsh is probably going to wind up taking. Now, if you're looking at coordinators, the other name that's going to be, well, there are a couple names that are really interesting here. 2 NFL offensive coordinators. We already said Zach Robinson. On3 also lists Todd Monken, who's been Oklahoma State's OC twice. He's now the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. Again, I don't know the NFL landscape well enough to know, and someone would have to help me out here. Is Todd Monken going to be in line to get an NFL head coaching gig at some point? Because if there is any real serious thought about that being something, I would imagine that that's probably the better route to stick it through, unless for some reason you just really love the college game. But Monken's a guy he's been in the college game for a while, now has been in the NFL for a little while, especially with what college football has turned into. I would think that a guy who was there and is now in the NFL probably wants to stay in the NFL. But hey, worth a call, I suppose. Worth a call if you think he's really the guy. Jim Knowles, Penn State defensive coordinator. He was there for the 2021 season, a great one for Mike Gundy and company when they almost won the Big 12 championship. His defense finished in the top 10 that year. He was Ohio State's defensive coordinator last year, won a natty. Now he's year 1 at Penn State. Previously the head coach at Cornell. Actually, I didn't know that until just this moment right now. Jim Knowles, the thing with that is I feel like the defensive guys are just not nearly as in vogue as they used to be. I even myself, I would generally, if I'm hiring a coach now, I would prefer an offensive mind probably as a coach. Maybe that's not quite as strong a feeling in college football, but just so much more of an offensive minded sport these days. I would probably rather have that guy. And then if you're a defensive coach and you're hiring a hot offensive coordinator all the time, they're just going to keep getting hired away if you do a good job there. Look, the one that is going to turn a lot of heads in the Big 12 that's on this list, and I knew that it would be, and K-State fans will get real antsy about this, but it's Colin Klein, who is the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He's done a very good job there. Texas A&M dropped a nice 40 burger in not College Station, in South Bend, in beating Notre Dame earlier this year, 41-40. They've scored over 40 points in all 3 games this year. I mean, once again, continue to monitor that throughout the year, but it seems like Colin Klein's been really good for Marcel Reed. Colin Klein was the change. That was the biggest change that Chris Kleiman made in his program after 2021 when K-State was kind of floundering. He got rid of Courtney Messingham as offensive coordinator, hired Colin Klein, and what happened the next year? K-State wins the Big 12 title. I think Colin Klein, it sure sounds like, is going to get a Power 4 head coaching job this offseason. Like, most people that you talk to seem to think this cycle will be the time for him. So K-State fans obviously are thinking, man, we don't want to miss out on this guy. If it's going to be Oklahoma State, it's like, man, we at one point had to watch Brad Underwood, K-State grad, coach at Oklahoma State. Are we going to have to do this with Colin Klein too? Like, there's some real apprehension there from K-State fans right now. Colin Klein, I think, is a guy who's going to get the shot. What do I think about Colin Klein as a head coach? I think he meets a lot of the criteria that you like right now. Young, understands what the sport is right now, offensive-minded guy that's proving it at the highest of levels, by the way, in the SEC, in a total pressure cooker environment in Texas A&M, or at Texas A&M, where, they'll pay a coach $75 to $80 million to go away. Like, he's now getting the experience at the levels that you would want him to fully grasp and understand the landscape of what this sport is like right now, and seems to be passing that test with flying colors. So he's checking off all the boxes. He's checking off all the boxes, I think, to be a guy that's going to get his shot. Some other names here, like Will Stein, Oregon's offensive coordinator. Shannon Dawson, Miami offensive coordinator. And then Jason Candle at Toledo. I guess that's a head coach that I missed. He's been there for 10 years. That's one where it's like, okay, having success in the MAC is one thing, but being a guy that's been there for a decade, I don't know. I don't know about that. We'll see. Man, I see, like already talking about Dabo here in the chat. Even if Dabo and Clemson wind up breaking up here, that to me seems like another, like when someone asked about Gary Patterson earlier, that feels like same vein, coach who's been great and done it at an even higher level than Patterson or Gundy, actually winning national championships. But does that feel like it's moving in the right direction? Like, what would you say is the problem at Clemson? Is Clemson suddenly like so under-resourced or undermanned that it's like handcuffing Dabo and what he's able to do? Or is the more likely and plausible explanation that like Dabo has not fully embraced and excelled in the new world of college athletics now in the environment that currently is there? It sure seems like it's more like that, okay, than it is Clemson being the problem and Dabo just needs a fresh start. But hey, that's my thought, okay? That's my thought. Yes, Ron, it's coaching. Yeah, yes, I would agree, Ron. I would agree. Okay, well, if you guys have anything left, you can submit a super chat by clicking the $ below the chat box. Appreciate everybody for hanging out. If you would be so kind as to like the video, a lot more people in here since the last time I dropped this reminder, but if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, that stuff really helps. Totally free to do that to support the work I'm doing here. You can also subscribe to the Open for Business newsletter at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com. Got some really nice emails from people who are recent subscribers to Open for Business the other day or within the last week. It is totally free. Comes to your inbox twice a week. We've got 5,200 Big 12 fan subscribers now. The Yellow Martian, this is a good point here. Dabo Swinney, Mike Gundy, Kyle Whittingham could/are gone after this season. That is crazy to think about. Kyle Whittingham will be an interesting one to monitor. I know that's sort of been conventional wisdom that this would be the last year for him. I don't know what is more likely there. If they rally and finish the year strong, if that makes it more likely he's out, or if they have another year where they struggle, if that makes it more likely he's out. I guess probably if they struggle, because Utah might be feeling some of the same sense of urgency. But then Utah doesn't get to go through the excitement of a coaching search, right? Because Morgan Scalley's already the guy there. But yeah, I mean, Dabo, what if Clemson goes like 8-4, 7-5, 8-4? Will Dabo be run out of town? Will Clemson do it? Will they pull the trigger at that point? mean, people were talking about them winning the national championship coming into this year, so it's not like they're totally devoid of talent either. I don't know. That would be another really fascinating situation to watch unfold. How they handle Dabo, and a legend there, a total legend. So Yellow Martian, good thought. The times they are changing in college football for sure, and a lot of this wave of like long time established just icons in the sport, I think a combination of get a little disenchanted with what the sport is right now, and also just are not as well equipped to handle it as they were before. And so it leads to them not having as much success, which creates situations where their schools wind up having to act. Bill, thank you, Bill. Appreciate your support of the channel. Bill says, thanks, Sean. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that, Bill. Thank you very much for being here and for your kind words. Happy to do it. Honestly, it's more fun now that I've kind of started reacting to these stories on the fly when they happen, big games and that stuff. Like it's fun to do the instant analysis thing and react in the moment here. So I'm happy to do it. Happy to join you guys. And please do just spread the word, like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. That's at ofbnews.com. Barry, Kirk Ferentz could be out at Iowa too. Yeah, I think it was Ferentz and Gundy were the longest tenured P4 coaches, I believe. And so both of those guys, yeah, could be gone. We'll see. We'll see how aggressive Iowa wants to get. I mean, they just had a big celebration for Ferentz. Did Ferentz win his 200th game? Is that what it was? He hit a milestone the other day that they were really celebrating there. So, yeah, that's another guy that could be out at the end of this year. So with that, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. Keep talking about this as it goes on. If we get any news, if we hear anything, if there are reports about who Oklahoma State may be targeting, that'll continue to be a topic on the show. So talk college football from a Big 12 perspective all week here on this channel. Make sure you get subscribed if you are not subscribed. Take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night, and I will talk to you soon.